Ratatouille, directed by Brad Bird, an animated film about a rat cook. So Remy is a rat born with an unusually strong sense of smell and taste, and he's also intelligent enough to read and understand human language, which lets him become familiar with a cooking book by Chef Cousteau, a famous French chef with a motto that everyone can cook. After the opening sequence, in which Remy's rat clan has to escape from the countryside, he ends up alone, separated from the rest, in Paris, and coincidentally finds himself right next to Gusteau's restaurant. And while watching the kitchen from the ceiling, he spots a young cook named Linguini. Well, he's not actually a cook; he's a garbage boy, just hired. And Linguini accidentally knocks over a bowl of soup, and then he tries to fix his mistake by adding random ingredients. Remy spots this and immediately notices that those ingredients wouldn't work together, so he ends up going down to try and fix the soup, at which point he is spotted by Linguini. Hilarity ensues, of course, and eventually the pair end up striking a deal. They end up cooperating. Linguini knows nothing about cooking but is human. Remy knows everything about cooking but is a rat. So Remy ends up sitting on top of Linguini's head, under his hat, and steering the boy by tugging his hair to make him perform the correct actions, which allows them to work essentially as one competent cook. So, first things first, I have to say that this movie was absolutely delightful in every respect, because it has lower stakes than most Pixar movies, no world to save, no lives in danger mostly. It manages to have this relaxed, warmer feel about it. It reminded me in many ways of Chef, another movie about cooking that also shares this quality, this cool vibe of, how much can really go wrong. The stakes are not too high, and because of that, it's way slower and more relaxed. And not just that, it's not the only similarity with Chef. The cooking scenes in both movies are superb. I loved everything that Ratatouille shows in this respect. The ingredients prep, cutting vegetables, adding spices and herbs, the way the kitchen looks and operates. Apparently, it's all very accurate too. Like always, Pixar has done extensive research, and even the famous cook Anthony Bourdain has praised the film for its attention to detail. There's also a lot of detail in the look and behavior of the rats. Apparently, the animators studied real rats for a long time to be able to properly animate them. And of course, apart from the actual animal features, they are also properly human in their movements and mannerisms so as to convey the emotions and be able to speak and so forth. One of my favorite small scenes in the film is when Remy tries to correct the soup at the beginning. He does this sort of in passing. There's just that moment where he's almost ready to escape, but walks over the bowl, smells that it's still not right, and has this great little twitch about him that shows that, yeah, it's probably the best time to run away now. But he just can't help himself, and so he goes back and has to still correct that because his calling as a chef is stronger than him. He just can't help himself. It's a brilliant little detail. In general, all the characters are animated superbly, but Remy for me just takes the cake. He is flawless in that respect. I also liked him as a character. I think looking at other Pixar protagonists, he's perhaps the least flawed one, which was quite refreshing, honestly. From the beginning, he knows himself, he knows what he wants to do, but also has a good amount of heart with it all. There's that element of the plot where he is kind of torn between his rat family and his cooking job, and despite the fact that he ends up putting his foot down, he never really cuts ties with his family. You never really feel like it's one or the other. There is a way to kind of to have both in your life. He doesn't tell the family to leave him alone, just to give him his space, but he's still family. He's still there for them when they need him. Linguini ends up being the one who has to work on his character, but I thought his journey was sold quite well. It's very believable that he would have those specific flaws and make those specific errors if you take into account the weird position that he finds himself in. There's another character I loved, Colette. She's another cook in the kitchen that shows Linguini the ropes at the beginning, and I think she's brilliantly written and fleshed out. I believed her 100% of the time. And the conflict connected to her character is also really nicely executed. There's also that one moment with her where Linguini says, "Thank you for giving me all this advice," and she says, "Thank you too." "For what?" he asks. "For taking it," she says. Great little piece of dialogue and great character moment. Finally, there's the character of the food critic, Anton Ego. I think the build up to him being this absolutely scary presence is terrific. There's that overhead shot of his office, which is shaped like a coffin. He, in general, he looks and he's animated like a vampire. And then we have that moment where he finally tastes Remy's dish towards the end, and then the subsequent review that he writes. I think those two scenes are just cinema brilliance, no two questions about it. They are the crowning moment of an excellent film, especially the food tasting, which is pretty much done without any words. It's just image and music, yet it all conveys so much emotion. Great, great stuff. So, coming into Ratatouille, I didn't know what exactly to expect, as it was my first viewing of the film. I haven't seen it previously as a teenager, and I certainly didn't expect that I would fall so completely in love with it. I think it works on all levels: storytelling, animation, and most importantly, emotional. Terrific movie.